So about 6 years ago, I was in Alabama for the last time, and I had just gone back down there for the last attempt to see if the relationship was worth or able, I think, to be fixed at any degree. Mind you, when I was walking down the aisle, there was that voice that started yelling at me that was saying, "You don't even like him, let alone love him. Why are you doing this?" And yet, I went along with it anyway because the other voice was telling me, it was saying for whatever reason that I had to. It just felt like I had to. And I didn't want to. But what it would have taken for me to not was specifically my dad or my brother to express some concern at the selected future spouse. Anyway, they did not say anything. To me, it felt like one of those things of, this is so completely obvious that this is not a good choice, right? And I needed that so that my dad or my brother specifically would say something. And they didn't. Of course, my brother felt like, he said since then, he felt like he'd been gone long enough that he didn't have any business in saying anything. And for whatever reason, my mom says that my dad, hated him from the get-go, and yet he also didn't say anything. It's like, one of those two, if either one of those two had said anything, it probably wouldn't have happened. So that's been a whole journey too. But 6 years ago, I was back in Alabama for the last time, and an attempt to make this thing work that I've said before, I kind of always knew that divorce was on my path, just the way my family has been about it. And I knew that it's like I needed the experience of being the one that didn't just go along with, my grandpa's always saying that his family doesn't get divorced. I had to be the one that finally did, and I always thought I was going to get thrown out of the family anyway, just for, my whole existence seemed very contrary to what my family was okay with. And I tried very hard to conform for a long time. And after, doing this my entire life, now that I am 41, I'm finally doing differently and not going along with that stuff now. So, Taz. Okay, my neighbor moved. So 6 years ago, back down there for the last attempt at making it work. Oh, what did you do? Yuck. Get me all muddy. So while I was there, he is shopping on eBay one night, kind of giggles to himself or whatever, and goes through with buying this thing, and didn't really talk to me about it until after he did it. And then he informs me that he bought this supposedly demonic doll, right? Off of eBay. I didn't know what I felt like, like if I believed that was even possible for something, for a doll to be, well, I'm drawing a blank on the word now. For a doll to have an entity that's in it or whatever. And as I'm telling the story, I actually started this video once and realized when I did it the first time that, of course, today is the day that I'm wearing my leggings that have a little Annabelle doll on them. So yeah, there's that. Anyway, so he buys this thing. I didn't know if I believed that was even a possibility, but it wouldn't have mattered anyway, because if he would have asked me, it would have been like everything else back then, and he wanted to do it, so he was going to do it anyway. You know, I got to a point the last couple years, I think, that I was down there with him. Anytime he would talk to me about something he wanted to do, it would get to a point, if I said no, he would keep pushing it. And then eventually got to the point where I would just start saying, do whatever the fuck you're going to, because we both know you're going to anyway. Whatever. You know, just... I didn't understand why including me was such a big, important thing, but I feel like that's starting to make a little more sense now too, but I'll save that. So, he buys this demonic doll, and I think it was there about a month before he got custody of his son, and we came back to Indy to pick him up, to move him back down there with us. So, you know, of course, when we came back up, it was for the holidays anyway, so this thing been in the house for a few weeks, had the holidays by itself in the house. I mean, Kat was okay when we got back, so didn't really... There was nothing noticeable that I noticed when we went back to it. And of course, I didn't like that thing being there, so I was always kind of like... I don't even know if it was necessarily an uneasiness about being around it, or if I just didn't like it based on the principle of, you know, the not mattering on the conversation and to have been consulted before, you know, anything like that. And just, I didn't know, like, I liked the Conjuring movies and all that, but I got to a point with those where I had this realization one day. It's like, any movie that says based on a true story, it's like there might be one tiny little piece of information that was the true element from the story, and then all the rest is just completely made up. So, don't really know, you know, and I felt like that wasn't really good. I mean, these people that, you know, the Ed and Lorraine Warren, whatever their past was, or, you know, I don't really know. What I know is made for interesting stories, and I liked that element of it. So then I feel like my ex was trying to... Okay, I went to seminary, got my Master's of Divinity, and it felt like there was an element of what he was doing where he was trying to pull me into this thing that I didn't want to be part of this thing. So it was just kind of trying to make it happen around me to some degree. So he gets this doll, and since there had been some issues with things that my former stepson, his mom was basically forcing him to tell stories about the family, my former in-laws got us some cameras for Christmas, so we could have something in the living room, and, you know, I think the dining room, I'm pretty sure there were two, or maybe it was just two places in the living room. I don't remember, but actually I think that was it. Anyway, so we have these cameras. So one night, this doll being in the house, was always a thing, right? And like creepy stuff. But like there was the biggest thing that I noticed, and I can't say it was exclusively because this doll was in the house. But the big thing was like my ex was kind of increasingly unhinged. And, you know, I don't remember how long he had been saying or making the comment to me that he should have raped me when he had the chance. But I'm pretty sure it was before the doll came in the house. Now, after the doll came in the house, one of the bigger things, he did comment one day that he saw himself getting so angry, like with people at work, that he could see himself accidentally killing somebody one day in his anger. I knew that was mostly directed to me because I'd outdone, my usefulness was over. I'd outlived my usefulness. He needed my assistance in getting his kid. He got his kid, and then that was that. Hold on. Okay, and then that was that. So that was what he had needed me for. So kid was there. I wasn't useful anymore. And one night, I hear the Xbox start up. And we had the surround sound, so I figured somebody left the surround sound on, and my former stepson was in there trying to sneak some Xbox time while we were asleep. So I checked the cameras, and nobody's in there. Completely dark. Cat's just Cat's sitting on the recliner, cleaning her belly. That was the extent of it. So it's like, oh, that's weird. And because I knew I heard something because it woke me up. So I roll over and try to go back to sleep. And I wasn't really sure. It didn't seem like a whole lot of time had passed, and it seemed like I was still awake. And I turned my head because I had been facing the direction of the closet, and I turned my head so I was facing the direction where my ex was. And I have my hand like this next to me on the pillow for some reason, and I see this stupid doll, and its head is in my hand, and I can feel the plastic of that little bald Cabbage Patch head shift as it turns toward me, and its little stickery eyes looking at me, right? Startled me awake, and I realized it hadn't been real. Like, I thought I was still awake when it had happened. Turned out I wasn't. So I could still feel this thing with its head in my hand, and it creeped me out. So we had previously made a bunch of trips to New Orleans because I loved it over there, and it was really convenient living like 2.5 hours from New Orleans. So one of our trips that we were there, we went to this little metaphysical shop, and I found myself drawn to some of the crystals that they had, and in particular, red jasper. I got some of that, and I don't even remember what else I got. But like the paper that they gave, I think they give papers with the information. One of the shops I go to does. That one might not have been it. But what I looked up for red jasper said wards off negative energies. It's like, well, I can think of a few times that might have been useful just with the connection with my ex. Anyway, so after I have this dream and could still feel the stupid doll's head in my hand, I found shorts that had pockets in it just so I could sleep with it on me, and have it on me at all times in that house. And what I started to notice was it seemed like it was causing, like, there was a shift in how I was able to see things. And so, my ex and I would be bickering about something, except, for a time where we would have just kept bickering. It's like when I had the red jasper on me, it's like I was able to see from a higher perspective and realize that all he was doing was trying to get a reaction, so I stopped giving him the reactions. It's like I started seeing myself able to disconnect from the toxic energy from that situation. And it was really kind of weird because it felt like while I was still physically completely present, it was like I was somehow watching it from a more removed perspective. And it was really, it's a strange thing. But I started seeing like all these different things that seemed very caught up and tangled in, our connection and just with life in general. It's like, this isn't working for me. you know, it was kind of a weird experience, but I still don't want anything to do with it, anything like that per se. But since I have been back home and been on this healing journey that I've been on, I'm starting to realize that I've always been swayed by energies, like in ways I didn't even realize. And like it's kind of taken on this whole life of its own, just realizing how, a lot of the things I did when I was in grade school, it was due to like the influence of these energies that were around me at any given point in time. And I've gotten a series of messages that have pointed to the fact that I am an open channel. And it's like, I feel like that's where this comes in at. Like, okay, I talk about the pattern app pretty regularly on here. And with my birth chart and my lack of earth placements, it says basically I pick up on any toxicity that's in the environment. Well, I got a whole lot of Cancer placements. That's kind of, I think, one of the big things that Cancer is known for is just the amplification of, whatever that, the feelings of others and all that stuff. So I feel, and mind you, I have Sun, Moon, Rising, Mercury, and Mars in Cancer, and my rising sign is the only one that's in the first house. The rest of them are in the 12th house. So it's like I didn't even have any idea most of the stuff was occurring. It was just kind of occurring around me. But as I've been on this journey to try to figure out myself more, I'm finding that I pick up on the stuff that's there that other people may or may not realize is even there, and with my family, sometimes I end up mirroring it back, which is kind of a weird thing, because, I'll watch myself start taking on this stuff, and it's like, why am I acting this way? And realizing there's something so much deeper to it that's even going on that I was never aware of until particularly the past couple of years, really since I left my ex for the last time and pushed through with getting the divorce and everything. and I've had to, when I left him, I was trying to figure out how I had even gotten into that situation to begin with, because there was all the red flags, and it wasn't that I couldn't see the red flags, it was just somehow I felt like I had to go to the red flags anyway somehow. I don't know. I'm just rambling and trying to make sense of it as things come up, I guess. So, yeah. Anyway, I think the point of this conversation that I have somehow meandered my way down was because this week I have spent a bunch of time, well, over the past week and a half, I spent a lot of time, I go into the shed and pull out some of my boxes from when I moved back up here. And I've been kind of rifling through them for a while. And I got to a point where it's like I would pull some odds and ends out of the totes, and then it'd be like, well, now this tote is half empty, but it stayed out there or whatever. So the other day, I went out to the shed and was digging through stuff and noticing all the boxes that were half full because I'd been doing this, or I was looking at stuff and realizing that, hey, I could get rid of this. Still big on the idea of selling the kitchen stuff. Kind of, okay, we're moving in on Christmas, so now's a really good time to do that. The minor snag is the fact that I have to live with my parents at this point in time. And every single time I have mentioned selling my kitchen stuff, my mom's like, but why would you do that? You don't know what's going to happen. You might move out real soon and blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, first off, right now, I know that current situation, I'm not moving out. Also know there's some stuff in there that could bring me a little bit of income that would be helpful. And I could use that right now. Also know this stuff's got like his energy on it too. I don't want that. Oh my God. Okay. I haven't gotten to the kitchen stuff yet, but I've been pulling a bunch of the other boxes in, and I think I've moved like 15 in recently, and there's currently like 7 on the back porch, because I was digging through and it's like, I have 5 totes of stuffed animals. Why? So it's like, I'm 41 years old. I was always big on my stuffed animals. Yes, I always had them, and a bunch of them. But it's like, when I was looking at them in the shed, it's like, I could donate these or just get rid of them and not have them in my space. So I was realistically thinking about, those options. So then the stuffed animals, there's 5 totes of stuffed animals, as I said, on the back porch currently. I think a couple days ago, I opened one of them and pulled out this. My dogs are going to bark, I'm sure, because the corgi's out. Yeah, so I pulled. Okay, had to pause it a second. That's going to happen. The corgi's out, so. So I pull like one of these stuffed animals, and I don't know how long I have had this thing, but I remember when I was in the single digits, it was very important to me. And I was just looking at it, and it's like this little gray puppy that has like a winter hat on its head. So I pull it out, and as I'm holding it, it's like I just get this overwhelming urge to cry. And then I started thinking, it's like, okay, open channel. And I had nothing way back then, like, okay, I had my brother and some dogs. But it's like, I didn't know what was going on, like, with this energetic stuff. I had no idea what any of that was. And I think that one of the things, since I was an open channel, I would hold these stupid stuffed animals, and it was kind of like my little security blanket because I had nothing else, right? So, or nothing else that I could connect with. Thank you. Ugh, too much. Like, when I was a year old, we had this little Chihuahua Terrier mix that found his way to us, and that dog immediately was my protector. We don't know anything about his backstory, you know. I was 84, so my parents assumed that somebody probably lost him when they were passing through town or something, because he was really well trained. Didn't know where he came from, but he showed up at our house, and since my parents didn't trust him at first, they didn't want him around me. But very quickly, it's one of those situations, makes me think of Gracie and Taz, because when I moved back up here, we tried to keep them separate because we weren't sure how he was going to react with her. And they ended up, it's like, because we wanted to keep them separate, they would not allow us to keep them separate. So I assume it was probably something pretty close to like that. But this dog ended up being my little protector. And until I was 8, you know, he was what I had. Him and my stuffed animals, and my brother was pretty close. So my brother, I've talked about him before. He's a Capricorn, so he's had the more grounded side of us. It definitely, sure as shit, was not me. But you know, so I had my dog, and I always had these stuffed animals. And I think even the picture, so a while back, I printed some pictures off of like people and animals that I've had in my lifetime that I've lost. So you kind of frame them and put them where I have access to seeing them. So they're behind my desk. And the picture that I have with Chip in it, I like, we're on my bed and I'm surrounded by all these stuffed animals and my dog. And thank you, Tazzy. Yeah. After Chip died, you know, I was 8. That was when all hell broke loose in my lifetime. And I kind of wonder, with just the overwhelming urge to cry that I felt when I picked this one up the other day, if maybe I somehow channeled it into the stuffed animals that I had all the time, because I had nothing else to do with it, right? So, you know, that was like the best I could figure. So here's a stuffed animal that I pull out, overwhelming urge to cry, and really wish that conversation would stop. My parents are discussing in the conversation that's me and them. They could talk just to themselves, but they're not. So I keep having alerts pop up. Anyway, with that in mind, it's like, okay, so energies definitely can stick to stuff. And I've been aware of that in the time I've been back, because, you know, like when I manifested my desk and ended up getting this amazing desk for free from some people that wanted to turn their office into another bedroom because they had like 5 kids and needed another bedroom. So the first, when I got the desk in the house, one of the first things I did was go through and wipe it down with like the sage spray that I have, because we're not taking any chances, right? So I realized I'm not going to be able to get rid of all of these things, but they definitely need a heavy duty cleanse. And I'm wondering if maybe part of my current journey and everything that I've been processing and purging out of my system, is still connected to these toys that were so important for so long. So I guess tomorrow, because it's getting dark now, I'll probably go through and pull out the ones that I remember being especially attached to and throw them in the washer for one thing, because they all stink. They've been in these boxes for a while. And then sage them as well. Make them all smell better. But really make sure those heavy energies are out of, my stratosphere. Gosh. Because even just talking about them a little bit ago, I started tearing up real hard. It's like, okay, obviously there's still a pull there, but I don't think I realized how much I had that I was holding on to, energetically speaking, until I picked that daggone that one up. And there were a couple others that I knew were really important to me back then that I picked up. It's like all of them, it's just this overwhelming urge to cry. It's like, that's where it went. I couldn't process it all. I've had blocks in my, my chakra system. Like the trauma around the rumors and getting bullied and just everything. Hold on. Getting bullied since I was 8, up until, well, much later. But the later in life occurrences where it came up, because that was through high school, was the constant stuff. After the constant went away, for graduation, moved off to college, all that stuff, it started playing out in different ways, which I think is another story for another day. But, oh no. Get it slurping my camera. Anyway, I remember walking around campus at night, because I was walking home from, I did this swing club, swing dancing, and was walking home at night from that, and I had this overwhelming sense, the echoes, amplification of all these voices and things that I was receiving energetically and didn't realize what it was. So I had nowhere to go with it, and it just freaked me the hell out. Thought I was having a mental health break a lot during undergrad. Now realizing channeling, and while I was in a pretty toxic environment growing up. Now, it wasn't one per se that was necessarily getting physically abused all the time or anything, but there was a lot of emotional stuff that, whether it was meant as it came across or not, that's how it was received. And my brother and I have had to work through some stuff, and we've talked about a lot of stuff, because we both realized it was something different now from what it was when we were going through it, and just all the emotional burdens we took on from our immediate environments. I think it's kind of funny, because we had this conversation a while back. So I am a Cancer, and I have lots of Cancer placements. Cancer is the mother of the zodiac, from what I've heard. And then Capricorn is a sister sign. and my brother is a Capricorn, and I've heard that Capricorn is the father of the zodiac. So we kind of had that little thing too. But like, I asked him the other day, it's like, did you ever feel like we were more emotionally evolved than our parents? It's like, sometimes it's like, really? Because I feel it all the time. And I think we were talking about something specifically like to that, like past 5 years kind of stuff. But I was like, this is my entire life. And I've been aware of it all my life, and it just felt like because of that, I took on different levels of stuff than I was even supposed to. But yeah, and then now, once I came back here and had to look at the toxic situation that I was in with my ex. Mind you, I will not say, okay, there was some narcissistic stuff in there, not gonna lie. And I think just about anybody who knows anything about empaths and spends a little amount of time with me seems to catch on pretty quick that I have this empath thing going on for me. But there's a lot of stuff, the whole narcissist and empath toxicity that comes from there. But the toxicity was not exclusively from him, because I was unhealed to the point that I was able to get into that situation. But since I've been out of that situation, it's been a matter of unraveling the details of, my life that pushed for me to end up there. And there's a lot to it. A lot of bad beliefs that I acquired over the years growing up and just being an open channel and collecting all this energetic shit that wasn't even mine, and then not having a way to clear it out from my system. Of course, I've talked on here quite a bit about like some of the bullying that came up. Was like my one of my cousins that's like 3 days older than me, and I don't remember why he was in our class, because we both would have been able to go either way age-wise, because, July birthdays, so either we could be really young in our class or we could be old in our class. And for some reason, we ended up in the same class. Now, I like to say that I flunked preschool because I wouldn't talk to anybody. I don't know what his story was on that. My mom likes to push the angle of his mom was a big smoker all throughout the pregnancy, and there was other stuff on that end, so he had some like developmental issues. I don't know. Family wise, like that's my grandma's oldest sister's group. And the oldest sister, my grandma's the youngest sister. It's like there's always been a big divide with our family and their family. And then, of course, it was convenient when he and I were both within 3 days of each other that, we could just hang out when we were little and everything. Well, that worked until the little open channel that I was, and being completely naive because nobody ever told me anything. And his line being the ones where he was probably gifted too much information at an early age. So he tried to enlighten me, but what he said happened wasn't what happened. But it took until Tyler's death before I was able to process it and realize that the shit that I got bullied for literally my entire life, well, since I was 8, never even happened. So that was like a big thing. But I don't even remember why I started down that path now. Keep watching my grandma. I just saw her over in her window, looking out at me, and then I saw the other neighbor's light come on, and my uncle took the corgi in. It's like my mind's been jumping. But being the open channel and getting this stuff dumped on me, and then realizing that, okay, that's where I was going with it. Basically, since it was a lot of emotional trauma pertaining to sexuality, that's like sacral chakra stuff. So it's like I was blocked way in my sacral chakra way back when I was like 8. But the other day I did a video and talked about, it was the dream. And in the one dream where I realized that my ex was a leech on my energy, I mentioned, and I didn't even catch it until after, or when I was rewatching the video later, I mentioned that the anger that I felt was red and black. And it's like, wait, that's root chakra stuff. And that's like, root chakra has to do with safety and security. And I spent, that one I can say literally my entire life, and not just since I was 8, not feeling safe and secure. There was not any emotional stability or anything like that. So it makes sense that where the anger was coming from with my ex, with that place of safety and not feeling safe in my own body. It's like I'd spent my whole life feeling unsafe in my own body, and I didn't realize it until I've started to learn about like chakras and figuring this stuff out, putting the pieces together, realizing how when I was unable to take care of myself and provide myself with any sort of safety or security, it's like the universe was trying to do it for me, but I kept blocking that because I didn't realize that that's what was basically happening, Well, this ended up being more of a thing than I thought it was. I started a video and I did like 10 minutes, and then it's like, I don't like this, and for whatever reason I deleted that one. And then I felt bad because I deleted it, and it was just me choosing to delete it. So I was just gonna send a help to the universe. And like, I didn't know where this was going, but I started back where I thought I was supposed to start with the first one, and then I kind of went a different route. And I think this is more what I'm supposed to talk about on here, because this is how I'm discovering it for myself. And no, it's not a pretty process by any means, but it has been useful, necessary, all those fun things as I'm trying to have a real life, and escape the situation that I find myself currently in. But anyway, it is dark enough that the quality I can tell is going down. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, and yeah, hopefully, I can't say hope that. I can appreciate the fact that this is a journey. That's what my little info says for my channel. This is my freaking journey, and it's healing, and it's not pretty. So, yeah, and it's hard sometimes. So, here we are. As always, I appreciate you, and until the next time, see ya.